8 Japanese officers raised their hands in celebration of the successful surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. But the next second, a bolt from the blue came over the radio. Yamamoto Isoroku had originally planned to declare war on the US 30 minutes before the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, but he didn't expect that the translation of the telegram at the Japanese embassy in the US would delay the process, resulting in the declaration of war being delivered to US Secretary of State Hull an hour after the air raid on Pearl Harbor. At that moment, Yamamoto Isoroku's greatest fear, war without a declaration, had become a reality. He also realized that Japan had already embarked on the path to defeat. The day after the Pearl Harbor attack, U.S. President Roosevelt declared war on Japan, officially kicking off the Pacific theater of the war. On April 18, 1942, the United States launched a retaliatory airstrike on Tokyo, the Japanese capital, with Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle leading dozens of B-29 bombers. Upon learning of the airstrike on Tokyo, Yamamoto was furious. Subsequently, to prevent the U.S. military from bringing the war to Japan's homeland, Yamamoto ordered the Navy to push the Pacific front eastward and strengthen the defense of Tokyo. However, since there had been no precedent of bombers taking off from aircraft carriers, the Japanese military mistakenly concluded that the B-25 squadron that bombed Tokyo had come from Midway. Therefore, capturing Midway and defending the Emperor became the Japanese Navy's top priority. On June 4, 1942, Japanese Vice Admiral Chuchi Nagumo led a combined fleet of 4 aircraft carriers and 25 other ships in an attack on Midway. However, what the Japanese did not know was that the Americans had successfully decrypted the Japanese naval code, learned of the Japanese attack plan in advance, and gained insight into the movements of the Japanese fleet. The Americans then set up an ambush near Midway. The next day, the Japanese launched an air raid on Midway Island. However, since the U.S. military had already prepared defenses, the Japanese surprise attack failed to achieve its objectives. Just as Nagumo was preparing to launch a second wave of attacks, reconnaissance aircraft sent an urgent message reporting that U.S. aircraft carriers had been spotted 230 nautical miles from Midway Island. This left Nagumo in a dilemma. Should he continue attacking Midway Island or reload the bombers to counter the U.S. aircraft carriers?